plea deal yesterday with the Calhoun County Prosecutor's Office during the middle of the jury trial. As part of the plea, he was to show us, or the police, where he buried Amber Griffin. He did bring us out here yesterday and pointed out a couple of areas of interest. I know I talked to most of you earlier, and there were a few things that had changed since the last time that he saw it, so he had identified a couple of areas. I can report that the third area that we searched today, we have found human remains, and we do believe those to likely be Amber Griffin's body. Again, the fact that she is decomposed at this point, it's just bones. We're still going to have to do some further testing to confirm that it is her, but it was in a spot that he had identified that he thought that was a likely spot that he had buried her.
How further down the ground were the remains?
So I would estimate that the top portion of it was probably 3 feet. It's still being worked on right now, but it was a pretty significant depth that she was buried.
How difficult was it for crews with the excavators, the canine units, for them to pick up where exactly the remains were found?
Well, so I guess that was the most challenging thing is the surface of the ground. Like, you couldn't tell anything apart. So you'd think that you could go up and identify an area relatively easy, but that was not the case at all. Mainly with the leaves and stuff that were on top of the ground, you couldn't just look at a spot and determine that that was an area that had been searched. So as we discussed this morning, we were trying to be delicate. You're using a piece of heavy equipment to bring back layers at a time. You don't want to damage anything. You want to respect the body when we recover her. So that was a very slow process that we were doing. So we're still continuing to do that right now.
Given that 3 feet of soil was between the surface and the remains, is there any belief between investigators and also the prosecution that that someone may have helped him bury the body?
I can't really comment on that at this point. I know what he has told us, but I don't want to really comment any further on that.
You mentioned this was in the third spot, and you mentioned earlier about the soil changes. Was that in any indication once you started digging in that spot?
I can say that yes, on this third spot that we started digging, there were some significant soil changes that we had noticed that were different from the first two, so that gave us a little more optimism as we were going to that spot, and then eventually we were able to actually see the bones.
This has been a long ordeal for both the family and for Battle Creek investigators. Talk about what it means to finally have that answer.
Yeah, so even for me, from the human perspective, it's very gratifying. It's something that we wanted to accomplish from the very beginning. The day that she was reported missing, almost the entire investigative bureau from the Battle Creek Police was activated to find her. I went and met, along with Prosecutor Gilbert, with the mother, Carmen Griffin, after we found her, and notified her. She's emotional, but she's happy, and this is one of the two end results that we were looking for. One was a successful prosecution with him, going to prison, and the second was returning the human remains to a family so that they can have a proper burial for their mother.
The other, and of course, the proper prosecution with him, with the plea deal intact, given that he led you guys to where once confirmed her remains are found. What's next in that regard? If you could tell us what David did there.
I think that's going to be ultimately up to the judge and the prosecutor to decide, but I have spoken with the defense attorney as well, and we're under the impression that he did lead us to this spot, which ultimately recovered her. So as far as that goes, I think we're all under the impression that he fulfilled his side of the plea bargain.
Do you recall the exact spot from your previous search efforts back in 2020?
It's hard to say when you say exact spot. Have we been over that surface area? Yes. Do I know if anybody specifically looked in that exact spot? I'm not sure. We have been in that area extensively, and things look different.
Have you guys spoken to Armand yet? If so, what did she say?
Yep, I talked to Carmen. Myself and Prosecutor Gilbert went there and broke the news to her, and she's happy. She's happy that she was found, but she's still very emotional. This is a pretty, it's been a very long ordeal for her, so she's still processing.
Did the cadaver dogs help at all with this?
They did. So we actually had 2 MSP cadaver dogs that came and assisted, and they've assisted us numerous times. We've searched probably at least a dozen areas out here in Calhoun County for this entire case. They've been a great help, and they did come in today, and as we were peeling back some of the layers, they were able to assist us.
Aside from identifying that remains to be Amber, what other questions still need to be answered from searching the area and anything in this entire investigation, like any main pointers aside from possible person that may have helped forward in this case? case.
Yeah, I don't think I'm really going to comment too much more on that. Obviously, we'll speak with the prosecutor and see if there's any additional evidence that we need to get to actually wrap up this portion of the case, but we'll have to have some further discussions on that. Anybody else? Anybody want to make a comment? Chief?
I'm doing good.
All right, we good? All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks.